that Individual Disabilities Education Act idea, we got called on that in the mid 80s. I think it was at Claywell Elementary, because children should be in the least restrictive environment. My son, and we can go down the line, you probably have various friends that have autism and other difficulties, perhaps limb coordination, but all children learn much better when they're treated like other children. And a stigma immediately stays with a child, and it's usually not the best stigma to have. So inclusion, and teachers were not real friendly to that. I remember that at Claywell, it was a big, it was a topic. And yet it's a federal law. We have to have at least a restrictive environment. So it's not like teachers had a choice. But at any rate, I'm very aware of the necessary accommodations. And I just had to change Shields Middle School because their walkways for the ESE were horrible. I mean, there was a definite, distinct, and I'll say disdain look for those classrooms. They were portables, right? And take a look at portables. Why are they way out there? But the walkways weren't even safe. So I can go on and on. So we have a lot to do.
That question is kind of a trigger question. I believe that it's not least restrictive versus restrictive. It's how we meet the needs of the child. You have to figure out the needs of the child. I adopted an autistic child, and that autistic child could not function in a regular classroom. And I know the law prohibits us to have individual classrooms like we used to and things like that. I know that laws have changed, but my child succeeded better in a very small classroom with an aide and was able. I will tell you that today, that child is very successful, is attending HCC and doing quite well, and has a job and actually has a house that she's taking care of herself. So I know that if you really get the right help early on, that you can help the children. So it's not the least restrictive or restrictive. You have to take one child at a time and figure out what's best for them. And the district has to find a way to be able to meet the needs of that child. So we can't just throw that child into a regular classroom every time. I'm not one that supports test taking. So I will tell you that right now. I feel this district over-tests the children tremendously. But I think that is probably the biggest issue that we have. Reading is a fundamental skill of life. You can't succeed without being able to read. I mean, you can succeed, but it makes life so much simpler if you can read. Everything is based on reading, everything. And we took out the fun stuff. You know, reading used to be fun. Do you remember when we had Bob's books and we had challenges, like they had slam and the kids did all kinds of neat things with slam? All of those curriculum things that were wrapped around books and reading, and you'd go to the media center and you'd have all these competitions. The district, because of testing, and we have too much time that we have to spend on getting ready for testing, so we took the fun learning out of our schools. We really have. And, you know, somehow we have to have a balance. And, you know, it's kind of like the pendulum falls one way and then it goes back another way. And we are way over here with testing. And somehow someone in charge needs to, and maybe that's parents, PTA, someone needs to say enough's enough, you know, and we pick 2 or 3 tests a year. I can tell you one elementary school, they test, I asked somebody one time, and right now they're taking 3 tests a week. You know, and we're that's right now. We've only been in school a few weeks and we're doing that already. So I just think someone needs to take charge and help us to get reading back as a fun activity.
We have the SIPs, the Systematic Instruction for Phonic Awareness. And sometimes I like to just tell the parents that if you ever learn a new language, that's what our ELL children are learning, a new language. And I remember when I had to learn German, I had to go with that guttural sound, and you actually have to learn to change your speaking voice to get the sounds out correctly. But in so doing, and you match it with words, and then you match it with reading, you really start learning the vocabulary, and you really become much more involved with the actual word, the meaning, the sound. So I'm a big believer in phonics education on their very pre-K. Actually, we had 9 schools that practiced this, and we saw that they were ahead by the time they were 3rd graders. So, I'm just a big fan of it. So then I also have been touting out, and you might have heard me, I was at the last board meeting. I think it was the last one. I'm still on this idea that the VPK needs to be standardized. It needs to have, I don't want to use the word rigor, but it needs to have a reading rich literacy foundation and numeracy foundation. It has to be, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a VPK, and we don't know what these kids learned or if they learned. So, and this came from my son, by the way, Thomas. He's very much into education, but at any rate, he shared that. He said, "Mom, I don't know where should I send, Brooklyn to VPK? This one is horrible looking," and he went on and on. So, I've been working on that, and I think we'll get there. And actually, we are. You've heard of these coalitions, but coalition's only good as if you're going to do something with that group. So, I want us as a district to be the overseer on that. I think PTA, it is a foundation of every school, or it should be. And parents, as you well know, are used to being able to help the children in the computer room, become readers in the kindergarten, and become cafeteria helpers in the high school. But, and a lot of it's symbolic that my mom's there. I've been in my child's school ever since he was in 4th grade. But children do better when they see the adults in the room. They do better. It's a stamp of security, safety, and let's say accountability when you get older. But I know that we can safely make sure that each PTA member has a security check, background check, whatever. Everything is so automatic now. Because if our children don't see our parents, that's not a good thing. And if they don't see the speakers that come in and help them learn higher aspirations, say in law, say in the firefighting business, say in the welding business, all parts of life, how are kids going to aspire, in a real way? We need the role models in the schools, and it has to start with the PTA. I know it's coming because right now, remember we had the big safety, so no one can go in the schools. And now we had the COVID, so no one can go in the schools. But I think, and now I shouldn't say I think, I know this is a direction I know I'm moving towards because I want to read in my grandchild's class, and I know you all want to be in the classroom. And Damaris will give me my orders, or Frank Ray's. They'll share with me what they would like for me to do, and I'm sure I'll be doing it. So that's the answer to that.
That is a very loaded question, because you have half of the PTA and parents who are ready to take off the mask and just start living, and you have half of them that say, no, we want to keep the mask for the school year, and we want to keep our children safe. So you really have a 50-50 place here. I will tell you, the schools from where I've been sitting so far, they are missing the parents' support. You parents are the key to the success of every single school. And they are missing you like crazy. You know, you just the smile in the morning, a cup of coffee. Sometimes it's just filing the paper. Sometimes it's answering the phone when you walk by. Those of you who have been in schools as volunteers, I'm telling you, those schools are desperate to have you back. Desperate, desperate, desperate. And I don't know what I could do as an individual, but I know if I get in there, I'm going to support saying we've got to open the schools and let the parents come back. The hospitals just let people go visit again. So we're getting there. But I think we're facing a new normal. We really are. So I can sit here and say and make it glorified and everything, but we are facing a new normal, and the pandemic has put fear in everyone. And so it's not the way it was. So it might be that you have to wear a mask and that you have to, you know, stay the 6 feet apart and everything like that. But you can still be hands-on right now until we can get this figured out. There are other ways. Send a card, send a note to the teacher, drop in with some donuts. You know, anything that you would have done had you been on campus, kind of try to keep doing. You know, somebody's got to pat the principals on the back. You realize that our principals are having to be a principal for a brick and mortar school, and they're having to be a principal for a virtual school, and they still have the normal activities going on, and there's nobody supporting them because they can't have parents in the school. You guys were the ones supporting the principals and saying, hey, good job, Prince. You know, so they're not getting the pat on the back from the principals. So I can tell you that the morale starts strongly with the principal in the schools. And if we want to get that back up, we got to get you parents back in those schools. I love it. My son-in-law is a peanut butter fanatic. I mean, I've never seen anybody, he eats peanut butter on everything, okay? And I will tell you, his peanut butter is in his cabinet. It is not in the refrigerator. He says he doesn't like it in the refrigerator because it gets watery or it gets condensed. So his is in the cabinet. So I have to support him and say in the cabinet.
Well, let me share what my peanut butter is. It's almond butter. It's in the cabinet right now because I don't think I can make it move if it's in the refrigerator. So, and I'm going to recommend that that everyone in the audience gets chocolate almond butter. It is delicious. I'm telling you, you don't need much, and put it on a rice cake. You'll be in heaven. You got the crunch, you got the serotonin, and you have the protein. So you're good to go.